Welcome to the virtual career lounge session where we want to help you become a greater you. I am your host, Darius Carlo, program coordinator here at Love Our Youth. And this lounge is designed to help our middle school and high school kids prepare for life after school. We believe that failing to plan is planning to fail. Today's topic is a good one. We're going to do an introduction into career exploration. We're going to introduce this idea of what career exploration is, maybe some steps involved. We're going to ask our guest a bunch of questions about that and the importance of understanding one's interest and skills. But before we get started, we want to give a special thank you to the Career Lounge session sponsor, EXL, which is a leading data analytics and digital operation and solutions company. You can learn more about EXL at exlservice.com. Thanks to their sponsorship, we're able to bring this lounge to you at no cost. But before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about Love Our Youth. We are a 501c3 company. We're a nonprofit organization that provides programming for youth. Our mission is to leverage the power of collaboration, uplift and empower youth and their families within our community. But before we get started, we would like to kick off just having our guests tell us their name and a little bit about themselves. So whoever would like to start, you can go ahead and start. And I just want to name and a little bit about yourself and your current role at the company.
All right, excellent. Well, first of all, thank you, Love Our Youth, for having us here. My name is Arvind Mehta. I'm based out of New York, New Jersey area. Currently serve as the global head of consulting at EXL Services. Carry about 23 years of experience, primarily leading and managing consulting groups, focusing on IT audit, IT advisory, analytics, generative AI, and cybersecurity. And I'm going to pass the baton over to DG.
Thank you, Arvind. Thank you, Darius, for having us here. I am Dhirendra Goyal, based out of New Jersey, Princeton. Popularly, people call me DG. I've been working with EXL for past 3 years now, and I lead and manage all the analytics project for our consulting client. I have more than 15 years of experience. I work across India, Canada, and US. So that's my brief background. I'll pass it over to Manish.
Thanks, DG. Thanks for having me here, and giving me the opportunity to share some of the learnings that I've had. A little bit about myself. My name is Manish Gupta. I am the assistant vice president on the consulting side of the business. Overall, I've been with EXL for 13 years, 13 plus years, and overall 18 plus of experience in finance and accounting domain. My expertise lies in finance domain, finance area, which is broadly speaking, it's the order to cash business, procurement, procure to pay, we call it as is, as well as the record to report. So that's kind of in a nutshell the three areas that I specialize in. And in terms of my educational background, I am a master's in business economics, as well as have done my MBA in logistics and supply chain management, as well as the financial accounting. So I'm really looking forward to sharing the experiences that I've gained over the years. Thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you guys for sharing that. I'm Darius Carlo. I am your host. I am a program coordinator here with Love Our Youth, where we provide programs for teens and children, but my main focus is teens, middle school to high school kids, where we have a teen lounge that runs in our local community. Our youth advisory board actually gets to sit and have conversations about what they want in their community, as well as I have the pleasure of running our college and career, which includes college, career, entrepreneurship, and financial literacy for middle school and high school kids. So we're going to kick off today's session about career exploration, but I wanted to start really with a more personal question, which is, what is your personal story on how you found yourself in the career that you're at now? Because most of our kids, 13, 15, 16 years old, a lot of times they're looking on Instagram or social media, but they don't really know the backstory of how some of you have become so successful and how where you started to where you become. So if one or two of you or all of you want to just share a little personal story on how you started your career journey.
Sure. I can start. So I I come from a very small town in India, and of course, while growing up as a teen, there was no one to guide us. And in speaking to the only engineer on our street, and I come from a small business family, um, having a guide or someone who can guide you in the right direction, somebody who's been there, is, I would say, the most important thing that I have cherished so far. Not just at the start of my career, but throughout my career. I always believe that you should have a mentor. If not, you should look for a mentor who can guide you in the right direction. Um, for me, I have had several mentors all the way from high school, somebody guiding me to what to do in terms of your bachelor's or master's. Where is the industry going? Because if you don't have a mentor or a guide, as I call them, you will be distracted in multiple different directions. So my strong recommendation, and that has been my story. I had guide somebody suggested me to do my master's in network security and cybersecurity back in the days. Um, I had mentors in each of my jobs who guided me throughout my career to say, this is what you should be focusing on next. This is where, and I will be very open to them in terms of my weaknesses, my strengths, um, talk about them, get the advice. So, and the only way you can get that is through networking. So, as they all say, right, your net worth, it is your net worth. So, if you start doing that through your early ages from middle school and high school, and by the way, I have two teenagers at home. My daughter is a sophomore in college, and my son is a freshman in high school. And that's what I tell them. Obviously, you have the parents, but we don't know everything, right? And we probably know what we've learned in our own field of consulting, which may or may not be the future 10 years from now. So get out there, network with as many people as you can, attend the events that your school organizes, that your local community organizes, and learn from everyone, right? And find out a mentor who is a little bit forward thinking. And there are a lot of people out there who are willing to help. So that has been my story. You have to have a mentor, you have to have a guide in order to be successful and tell you the next best step or best action that you can take for your career.
Wonderful. DG or
Sure.
anyone?
I can go next. Thank you. So I will not emphasis more on what Arvind has already said, that you need to have a proper guidance. The good thing about today's world is that a lot of information is available to young folks who are starting their career or planning for their career. So I would suggest is that focus on some of the core skills which are relevant and applicable for all the career paths, right? For example, your communication, your creativity, focus on gathering a lot of information about some of the choices which you are going to make. I'll be very open. I didn't have much guidance 20 years back when I was in high school. The only source of information was some of the friends and classmates I had, right? But these days, there is a lot of information available on the web through ChatGPT and a lot of internet resources. So focus on those information, evaluate pros and cons for each options which you are exploring. And trust me, the career you have in front of you is quite long, right? You have 30, 40 years ahead of you. And those career path choices will keep on, changing as you move forward. So focus on some of the core skills which are going to be applicable in all the jobs, for example, communication, and then keep on enhancing and adding value to your CV's resume so that you can find more opportunities compared to those who are not looking the broader spectrum of jobs available in the market. So that is something I would like to add in addition to what Arvind already said.
Excellent, Manish.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with what Arvind and DG said. I'll kind of give it a little bit of different flavor, which is just as kind of important in my view, especially for the people who are just transitioning from a college life into the corporate world, right? um, I would say I have myself risen through the ranks, so I know that there is um, learning. I pay special emphasis on learning. It is a continuous thing, right? Just because you've completed your college doesn't mean that you stop learning. Every single day you gotta learn, right? The environment is changing at such a fast pace that you gotta continuously keep up to date, right? So while we talk about learning, the other thing that I would say is, don't worry too much about when you land yourself a job, right? And if you don't like it, don't worry too much about it. Just keep doing that, right? Try to excel in, because it may be a stopgap, it may be temporary, and if you don't like it in particularly, still give your best, continue to give your best job. Because if you don't like something, the best way to get out of it is do it so well that you are put taken from that place and put somewhere else, and then do the same thing continuously, right? So that's another advice that I would have for the youngsters. And this is, again, I would say, keep a good company. You are average of the five people that you spend your most time with, so always make sure that you have the right company, you are associating with the right and the positive people. And last but not the least, gossip, I would say, absolutely do away from it. I know it's hard not to get indulged, but when you are at work, when you're in corporate, it's a serious business, it's work, right? Stay away from gossiping, do your work, excel, go back home. That's what I would say.
Wow. We have just unloaded a whole bunch of stuff. I can't even get to some of the questions I was going to ask because you guys already touched on it. So just real quick for overview, we've talked about mentorship or having somebody in your life that's going to be able to motivate you, be able to push you. I love what DG said because maybe he didn't have that person, but he recognized that he needed to have certain skills. And just for for those that don't know, CV is the British way to say resume. So on your resume, or European way to say resume, on your resume, make sure you have the skills that are needed. Do what you need to do. If it's an after school program, if it's a club you need to join, do something like that that's going to make you stick out. And I love what Manish said. It's so right. One, stay away from the gossip, stay away from the water cooler, as the work world will say, talk, and just focus on yourself. If you do the work, even in a place where you may not find much joy, they will pick you up out of that position because you did it the best that you can and with all that you have, and they'll notice that, and your work will promote you. And I love this idea of career exploration, especially in the year of tech where we're at, is that there's so much availability that's out there for us to continue to grow. Now, when we look at this, how do you feel job shadowing or internships can benefit our young people today?
Um, I, so, like I said, having a daughter who is sophomore, I think internships is a great way of learning the corporate world after you graduate. Um, but I would also mention that selecting the right internship is important. I've seen interns where they're just picking up papers from the printer and giving it back to the desks, you will not learn. So make sure the internship that you're picking will actually, like Manish said, provide you the learning capability that you want, or that you want to excel in, or you want to build your career in. But if you don't do internship, you'll probably be, learning. And in today's world, is internships. My daughter did externships, which is startups giving part of the projects to these interns in a champion challenger program, where you have to put in something, create something of your own, and then submit. So there's, in our days, old school days, I'd say, they were like typical corporate internship. But now there are so many opportunities, and it's up to you how much you want to learn, what you want to focus on. And my other suggestion would be, try and do internship in consulting companies, because that's where they solve problems, right? The consultants are alive, or they are thriving in the business because they understand how to solve different problems for different customers. So suggestion would be to go into consulting world, try to get some internships there, and learn different projects. As they say, you should be working, at least that's what I've heard, the maximum amount of time that you can between your 20s and, in your 20s, because that's the time you will learn and make the next 40 years of your life. And if you want to waste that time, you will be struggling for the next 40 years. If you utilize that time wisely, you will be enjoying for the next 40 years. So decision is yours, and internship is a great way to get into the corporate world.
That was great information there. Manish, this is a good question, and I'm going to pose it to you. How, especially nowadays, how can a teen, some young person, identify their strengths and their interest in this career world? How could they do that? What can you do to do that?
That's a very, I think that's a generation, that's a question which is coming after, um, y- uh, and being discussed a lot of places, right? And people kind of, use it interchangeably. They say, uh, what's your passion, right? You
Hmm.
have to be able to, find your passion. And, my response to that would be, um sometimes it's hard, right? It's hard to talk about, um it's not, look, if you're in a game, right? If you're playing cricket, right, that's a different deal together altogether. You can find out you're good at cricket and you want to pursue it for the rest of your life, right? But when it comes to the corporate world, and you see, okay, where is my strength, right? Number one, I think it's gonna, because when I was a teenager, trust me, I wanted to be everything. I wanted to be DJ, I wanted to be RJ, I wanted to be an astronaut, I wanted to do everything, engineer, doctor, everything, right? So I flirted with a lot of ideas, right? But then the kind of, right from the early age, right, the subject that you choose kind of, sort of defines what is the field that you want to do, right? That you want to kind of, make it a long term career for you. If you are studying medicine, you know that you want to go in a medicine field, you want to be a doctor. If you are studying engineer, you want to, maths, physics, you want to be an engineer for the most part, right? So it does leave clues, right? So it is not like after spending 17, 18 years of your career, all of a sudden you're thinking, and what's my interest, right? So it's sort of, defining along the way as you are, moving with your life. It is, and the choices that you make along the way is kind of putting you on a path that, okay, this is where I want to do. As far as your passion and strength is concerned, right? um, you'll get an idea when you start doing it, your work. You will get an idea, okay, what am I good at, right? What is it that I really like doing? When you like doing, when you like doing something, right? Time just passes by really quickly, right? And how do you identify? I'll get to the bottom of it, right? I'm a big fan of, uh, this legend called Jim Rohn. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but I follow him to the extent every time I feel depressed or whatever it is, I go to him for the answers and answers of the practical life situations, right? So one thing that he says is if you want to excel in something, right? He says start with why, right? Um, because the more stronger your why is, the more the more powerful your purpose is, right? And the more you will be able to kind of get to it, right? And how do you start? When we talk about why you want to do this particular thing, right? Unless you answer that question, right, why am I doing it, right, you won't be able to uh, you know kind of move forward with it. It's not going to be powerful enough for you to kind of put you and take you on the other side of where you want to be. And he says, so how do you find about why? And then he says, the best way to answer your why is ask why not. um, you know uh, Answer that question, and then you answer why not now, and why not me, right? So it's kind of I would suggest listen to him, but don't be too so concerned. I'm kind of scrambling a little bit here, but I'm saying it's a very tough question in terms finding what your true passion is. Sometimes you just keep doing and just know if you love something, time doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's 12 o'clock, 8 o'clock. It's just gonna be you're just gonna get going
I
with that.
love that right there. I think that's a great segue. And understanding your why. And I love the idea, especially with Jim Rohn. And I know Simon Sinek also
Yeah.
wrote a book on understanding your why and why you have passion to do the things that you do. And when you grab a hold of that, like Manish said, it can be a 10-hour day, but you understand your why and you love and you have a passion for it, it flies by. Now, when we look at this, and I know DG, I mentioned this, and I didn't say anything because we're in the age of AI, but he mentioned Chat GPT. But how can, and DG, maybe you want to answer, and I'm not sure if Arvin, you may want to jump in on this, but when we're looking at some of the online resources for our young people to take advantage of to either learn Excel, learn how to be a better PowerPoint user or create, how can we do that? How can they find that some of those tools so that they can become better at what they do?
Sure. So fortunately, there are so many resources available today, right, where they can access. And why I believe ChatGPT should be the first one to go is that it not only provides you a lot of relevant information in the first place, but it can also give you a lot of sources to further deep dive and look into it, right? So if I'm interested, for an example, creating a chatbot, right? If I just go do some training, it might not give me the easy answer. I can simply ask ChatGPT that what is the plan and how much time do I need to spend to create a chatbot, right? What sort of skills do I need to acquire? So everything is provided there. And then chatbot is not the only source of information, or it's not the ultimate source of information. It can give you the initial information, and then you can choose different ways and means to figure out, do you want to do it virtually, you want to learn an online course, or do you want to attend a physical session in your school or in college to learn about it, right? So that's the initial start. Few more things students can do is basically participates in some of those virtual workshops, which is conducted by a lot of organizations. There might be organizations within your schools, right, who conducts those sessions, or you can figure out in your city, in your neighborhood, some of the community centers, some of the YMCAs which are providing some of the relevant sessions. So this can be a right start. In addition to that, as Arvind mentioned, that when you go and intern and you do your internship with any of the companies, it's a very good source of information for you, because you get to know what are some of the standard sources being used by different companies and which are reliable. For example, Bloomberg, right? You might not have a Bloomberg terminal facility at your home or in your school, but it's a good opportunity to find out in an organization. So these are some of the information sources they can potentially utilize.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing that, because it's important that it's not just one. I know a lot of times in school we may focus on just one, but that's just the entryway into going deeper. AI cannot, it can help you, but up to a certain point, then you have to take over. It's almost like track and field. They pass the baton to you. You have certain information, and now you go search for that information, whether it's online courses, in person, or anything like that. And
Yeah.
go ahead, Arvin.
I was just gonna add, a lot of these systems are still under training, right? So I use a concept called trust but verify, and I have a real life example. My son was trying to do a geometry problem, and he used ChatGPT, and it gave him the wrong result. So don't just rely on it. Use them as a guide, as I said, right? So these are their virtual guides to help you in the right direction. But I've also seen people, or kids specifically, teenagers, just copy pasting the information, be it a piece of code, be it a template for a PowerPoint or a presentation that they're preparing, or a research paper that they're doing for one of their subjects. So use that as a baseline, but don't use it as a copy paste to save time. Again, that's where I said trust but verify, and always use your own experience and knowledge, and leverage your teachers, your clubs, and the resources available. Chat GPT and Google Gemini and Microsoft Copilot, there's several out there. They are only to give you the initial kickstart, but don't just copy and paste the information, because that's not going to get you anywhere. You will not learn.
Mhm. And that's good um good information, because we have one of our teams was talking about how he copied and pasted Chat GPT, but he left in insert name here, insert this here.
Exactly.
And if you don't read it before, and I love the idea of trust but verify, because just because it sounds wonderful, you may miss something that's there because you trusted it before you read it yourself. And I agree that AI is not the ultimate source of information. We become successful the more that we study, the more that we read, the more that we really focus in. I love what Manish said. He talked about Jim Rohn. Jim Rohn is a wonderful old school but very powerful stuff that we need to apply to our lives. And there's so many books that we can read to be able to get us to be at a better place in our career, and we can continue to move, but it takes time and it takes effort. And I know just for because of sake of time, I know some of you may have to jump off, but I have one final question before I get into some hot seat questions, which is, what would be your final advice that you would give to a teen, maybe somebody just out of high school, not sure what they're going to do in college, or maybe they're just became a senior this year and they're wondering, where in the world am I going to go? What would be your final advice? And this question is for all three of you.
Yeah. I'll
I
have a little bit of a longer answer, but I'll say learn, and learn. Knowledge is the only thing that nobody can ever take away from you, and that's the only thing that'll help you throughout your life to earn the living, to live a good life, to manage your family. Um, and just tagging along with what Manish said, finding your passion is important. But at the same time, you may not get into the same job that you've learned. So always use the fail fast approach. Always pivot to where the market is going, and the only way to do it is with continuous learning. So again, learn as much as you can during your initial years of your school, college, and your career, because that's what going to make you happy for the next 40 years.
It's good stuff.
Yeah, I can add to what Arvind said is many of us, when we start our career, do not have a very clear idea of what we want to do. We are always thinking about couple of options or three options. So my advice is always take an informed decision before you choose a company, a career, or a hobby would you want to pursue, and do thorough research, talk to the people, talk to the community folks, talk to your teachers, and I think most of the time your parents are a really good guide, right? Which you have an easy access to. You can frankly talk to them about your strength and weakness, and then you can probably choose one which you believe is the most suitable for you.
Yeah. It's kind of a subset of what DG said. So from my standpoint, I would say yes, talk to a lot of people, talk to a mentor if you have. If you don't have a mentor, make a mentor that you can look up to. But make sure that there's one skill that you develop is ability to decide. There's a lot of people even in the corporate world I've seen, they are not able to decide, and that's a skill that you develop very early. Your ability to make decisions, right, not getting influenced by the number of people that you talk to, that is a big plus for you, right? Because once you've decided, then it's really just moving with the tide here. And as I was saying earlier, that don't worry too much about it, right? Because the circumstances, situation changing so much. Don't think that once you've made a decision, it's gonna stick with you for life. You're gonna make course corrections along the way if you find something, a better fitment. So just go with it, make a decision, go with it.
Awesome. This was an awesome time. And before we get into our more fun questions, I'd want to thank you all for joining us today. I think this was an awesome topic. We talked about we've heard about mentorship and finding someone that's going to help you make it there. We talked about technology and how we can use technology, but we also learned to trust and verify, which I love that. Always be learning, learning, and learning at every step of the way. And of course, understanding what your passions are, understanding your why not, and why not me is so important. Now, we're going to get into some fun questions, and I have at least two, and then I because of time's sake. But the first question is, what is your go-to comfort meal? Go-to
Meal.
comfort meal. Go ahead,
Uh,
somebody.
I'd go with a all berry smoothie.
All berry smoothie. That's awesome. Anybody else? Go-to comfort meal.
For me, it would be chicken strips and burger.
Chicken strips and burgers.
Well, I think Chipotle for me.
Wow. As the teens would say, Chipotle is life. Um, all right. This one's maybe a little bit easier. Tea or coffee?
Tea, anytime.
Coffee.
Tea.
He's an odd one out, being from India or UK. It's usually the answer is tea, but I'll give
Yes.
it to DG for
I,
coffee.
thank you, DG, because my answer is coffee too. I am a coffee enthusiast, um, and I love some coffee every now and there. And then the last question is, if you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go?
Oh, Santorini is on my list that I haven't been to.
Go ahead.
I would like to go to Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Yeah, I would I would say Atlantic. It's very, it's just experience wilderness.
Hmm. I agree with you. I love the wilderness. Actually, Hawaii, I've never been. Santorini, the island must be beautiful. So those are all great ideas. I think for me would probably be somewhere in northern Italy. Just leave me in a mountain somewhere, with fresh made pasta and espresso, and I think I would find so much joy and comfort there. But thank you guys again, Arvin, Manish, DG, for spending this time with the Career Lounge. Thank you for joining us today. Again, a special shout out to Career Lounge Sessions that is sponsored by EXL, a leading data in analytics and digital operations and solutions company. And you can learn more about EXL at exlservice.com. Thanks to their sponsor, we can continue to do what we do today. We look forward to seeing you guys at our next Career Lounge session. Reminder to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button, get the notification so that you can know when the next Career Lounge session will be. And I'm Darius Carlo, your host, and you have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you.